sleep, you know. And he carried me out of there. And he had so much worth in my eyes because he saved me, okay? So he had that skill to carry me out of there, you know, that physical strength, which is a sixth bhava thing. And because of that, he became worthwhile to me, one of the most worthwhile people I've ever met in my entire life because of doing that for me. So when it comes down to it, the most worthwhile things are the things that help us survive. Okay? Sixth bhava. For instance, let's say, let's say that we get invaded. Let's say by aliens. Okay, because we don't want to pick on any country. Let's say we get invaded by aliens. Then what's going to be the most worthwhile thing in our country, in our world? The military, right? Which is the sixth bhava. All right, because they're the ones who are going to be shooting the aliens so the aliens don't capture us and take us to feed on us or whatever they want to do. So whatever's the most worthwhile thing is that, during times of war, the people have a lot of respect for their military. And they give a lot willingly to the military if they're actually being threatened. Now in war where, when our soldiers go over to another country, we're not supportive that way because the military is not supporting us. They're not saving us. They're doing their own sort of agenda that we're not even clear on. But if we got invaded and the military was what was keeping our homes from getting burnt down and keeping us from getting ravished and pillaged, we would really, really, really think the military was the most worthwhile thing and be happy to share our food with them. So that's the sixth bhava. It's a real interesting bhava. It's the ability to be worthwhile. And if you have that ability to be worthwhile, meaning you have skills to make a difference when a difference is a critical thing. You have healing abilities, physical abilities, martial abilities, fighting abilities that can come into play. That gives you, a skill that you feel solid, that empowers you basically to live in this material world. Okay, this also can be agricultural skills. Okay, agricultural skills. Sixth bhava represents that. It's any kind of skill that makes any kind of a skill or ability that makes us really, really worthwhile. The ability to grow food and provide food is as worthwhile as the ability to, to provide protection. Okay? This rules the sixth house also represents firemen. So when your house is burning and the fireman comes and puts the fire out before it's all burnt down, think how valuable that fireman is to you. So any of these abilities to be worthwhile is the sixth house. People with a good sixth house are just so able. They have so many abilities to be useful when it really comes down to the wire, when they're in a fix. Whenever they're in a fix or somebody's in a fix, if you can help that person, that's a sixth bhava skill. Okay? Ability to be worthwhile, really a great skill. Then we have the seventh bhava, which is karma in action, or social plus strength of action is strength of social actions. That's a person's ability to go out there and initiate the social desires they have, and initiate any of our desires that we have. So this is the confidence to approach another person that we want to do business with or have a relationship with of any type. Okay? Strength of social actions. An afflicted seventh house or afflicted seventh lord is going to be showing a lack of strength of social actions, socially inhibited type person. But people with Rahu in the seventh house are regularly going to be socially inhibited, or Saturn in the seventh house. They'll be inhibited from taking social actions. But maybe they got a good house, another good karma house, so they'll be good on that level of society and relating. But this is the house of taking social action. Okay, strength of our social actions. And of course, if that house is afflicted, there'll be an element of loneliness because of the fact that we don't have the ability to put ourselves in the situations in the first place. Okay? The eighth bhava is emotional contemplative moksha bhava plus security. So this is emotional and contemplative security. Okay? It's our ability to be emotionally secure. And that ability gives us the ability to trust. So the eighth bhava represents trust. What is trust? Does trust mean that when somebody promises you something, you can actually believe it? Maybe. But what trust really is trusting that no matter what happens, that emotionally you can handle it. People with an afflicted 8th house, they're not emotionally secure. So they don't feel that they can handle whatever is going to happen in a relationship. So they have a hard time trusting the other person. Now, you can't trust a person. It's just, you can't do it. It's stupid to trust anybody because we have our karmas, they have our karmas, and anything can happen at any time, and there's so many other people on the planet, and they've got their karmas with us and our partners, and who knows what's going to happen, right? We can't trust that. We can't trust life. All that we can trust is ultimately that whatever happens, we have the emotional security to handle it. And if we have that, we can trust anything in life. So a good 8th house gives the person that emotional security to know that no matter what happens, emotionally they'll survive. Okay? This house takes a lot of courage. Now, one point, let's see. So all these Caden houses, you know, the 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 11th, all these houses give us something that makes us feel we're secure. Now, what is secure? Secure means even if, you know, hell freezes over, I'm going to be okay. So if we're secure in our materiality, which is our resourcefulness or our resources, if we're secure that God may not give everything we want, but God will always give us what we need, if we're secure in that, no matter what happens on 2012, we know we're going to survive. Okay? We're going to handle it. These houses, 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 11th, all give us the ability to handle it. Okay? The 5th bhava, secure in self. No matter what happens, no matter what people say to us, no matter if we get thrown in jail for a crime we didn't do, you know, if everyone thinks we're the one who started 2012 and ruined the world and it's really not true, if we know we can handle that against all opposition, that's being secure in self, right? If everyone can condemn us because we started doing something that everyone else thought was weird, but we knew it was what was right for us, then that's being secure in self. That being able to be ourselves no matter what is in front of us or who's in front of us. That's that security. Knowing that no matter what happens, we are who we are and we're secure in that fact. And we'll survive as a result. The 8th bhava I already touched on. It's that emotional security. No matter what happens, I can handle it emotionally. Okay? No matter what happens, I can handle it materially. No matter what happens, I can still be who I am. I can handle it as an individual. Okay? And that brings us to the last of the Caden houses. Oh, no, we'll get there eventually. I'm sorry. The next house is the 9th bhava, which is a Dharma bhava and a skill bhava. Self plus ability. So it's ability as self, or skill as self. So this is the ability to know oneself, and our ability to understand ourselves. Our skill in being ourself. Now this has to do, there's a lot of elements into this. One thing this has to do with is being ourselves and being skillful in that self means that where we believe we're supposed to be is where we really are. Okay, if we believe we're supposed to be somewhere else and we're here, then we're not really skillful in being ourselves, right? Because we think ourselves should be like this, and we're like this, then we're not skillful in that, right? Being skillful in ourselves means being where we believe we're supposed to be, and being who we believe we're supposed to be. So a person may really know who they are because of this. They just know, this is who I am. Okay? They may take actions upon who they are and do what, follow their inspirations and be what they are and take action to be that thing in their career and their work and so on. But they may not really believe that's the right thing to be. Okay? So let's take someone who, just as a hypothetical situation, has Saturn, Rahu, and Mars in the 9th house. We're going to trash that 9th house, okay? So there's no way that person's going to grow up in a society and culture that supports who they are. Because the ninth bhava represents culture and beliefs. And that what we believe has so much to do with the culture we grew up on and the validation we get from that culture. So let's say we get this person with a totally afflicted ninth house. And let's say they have a strong first house. So they're going to be who they are. They're going to take action to be who they are. And say they got K2 Jupiter in that first house and Jupiter's not Makaraka. Right? Now at that point we know they're going to be an astrologer, right? Most likely. Okay? And let's say that they got the sun in the fifth house. So they're solid in who they are. They know who they are. They're not going to budge from that. And they're going to act upon it because they have a nice K2 Jupiter there. So this person is an astrologer who's going to be who he is and knows what's right for them. But then they get an afflicted ninth house. So their culture doesn't support their beliefs. Part of them wonders subconsciously if really being an astrologer is a great thing to be. Okay? Now that person had grown up in a Hindu culture 1,000 years ago and born into a Brahmin family, and he would have had a nice ninth house supporting who he is and validating who he is. So the ninth house has to do with the ability to be ourselves, meaning the knowledge to be ourselves, and being supported by our culture in that belief, and also just having the beliefs to be that. It's sort of a difficult thing to understand, but when you've got an afflicted ninth, a person doesn't really believe that they are who they are, that they're doing what they're doing. They may have a great first and fifth bhava, but if this ninth bhava is afflicted, they just will have a hard time believing they're doing what they do. Okay, because it just didn't seem like it could have ever happened. And so they have to struggle towards making sense of being that thing, when a big part of them doesn't believe in being that thing. Okay? So the point I'm making, an afflicted ninth house makes a person not really believe in what they are, even if that's what they know they really are. Okay? And so you can imagine, anytime you get one of the sets of houses, 1, 5, 9, you got these 3 self houses, right? Dharma houses. Anytime there's affliction to one of them, some part of you dharmically is out of sync with the world or yourself. Okay? If one of your artha houses is bad, some part of you's unable materially. And so on. So ideally we want a person to have all 3 bhavas of a set of dharma, artha, kama, or moksha in really good shape. Then that path becomes the smoothest. Anytime one of the bhavas is afflicted, there's going to be a lack of harmony and smoothness in fulfilling that goal. So an afflicted ninth house, even with a strong first house and a strong fifth house, an afflicted ninth house, a big part of the person will be wondering why they are what they are. How does that make sense? Not even believing that's really the best thing for them to be. If they know that's who they are. They know who it's supposed to be if these are good. They know, because it's simple a fact, that's who they are. But they don't really believe that that's who they're supposed to be. So it's sort of a funny thing, okay? How that can work out. And ultimately, that means to know oneself. And if there's malefics or afflictions here, there's a stronger need for a person to understand themselves in the context of who they are, and in the context of the culture and philosophies that they embrace. The 10th bhava is an artha bhava, so a worth bhava, and an action bhava. So the 10th bhava is strength of worthwhile action. It's the power to do worthwhile things. The strength of stepping forth to do worthwhile things. Okay? So a leader has to have a good 10th bhava, right? Because he has to do worthwhile things. Otherwise, why would anyone follow him, right? Now, if this house is afflicted or Lord is afflicted, then the person doesn't have a lot of strength to do worthwhile, materially productive actions, or actions that can create material security of some sort. Now let's say, and this happens very commonly, you get someone with a really strong 10th house. So they have the strength to do worthwhile actions, but they may have a terrible 6th bhava. So they really don't have any skills to do anything worthwhile. They have all the power to initiate it, but they don't have the ability. Well, those are the people that need to command people with the skills, right? Okay? Or you can have a real high capacity, strength of worthwhile actions, but a weak second house. So you're just not responsible for much. So you may have a really strong 10th house and just be a born leader, right? But a weak second house, so who do you lead? A bunch of 6-year-olds maybe. Or you can have a strong 10th house and a strong second house, and you're a strong natural leader who's responsible for an entire population, let's say. Okay? So, again, all these Artha houses go together. And hopefully the leader also has a good 6th house, which means they have worthwhile skills as well. Okay? And with those worthwhile skills, they will be able to, even if they're not doing it, they'll be able to understand how to manage the people with the worthwhile skills. Sometimes I work with people, and they have a great 10th house, have all this power to do things. They have a good second house, so they've got thousands and thousands of clients, okay? But the 6th house is not very good, so they're trying to manage a business, like say, it's just manage some kind of business, which is a huge business because of the good second house. And they're very powerful, and they love their work, and they're just going for it, good 10th house. But they don't have the skills, so constantly they're bungling, trying to get everyone else to work together properly, because they just don't have the skills to understand what really needs to be done. So again, if you want to have a perfect Artha person, a person who could really jump in there and take care of things materially, you want a good 10th, 2nd, and 6th house. Okay? Then we have the 11th bhava, which is a social karma house and a security house. So this has to be with social security. Okay? Simply has to be with, social security. Being validated socially. Being secure in our society. Being secure amongst groups and peers. It represents things like degrees and diplomas, because that degree or diploma makes us secure in our world. According to this degree, I'm a professor of biology. Therefore, I have a place in this world as a biologist. That's what the degree gives you. There might be a kid who studied biology and never went to college and knows more than that person, but they got a bad 11th house, so they don't have anything that gives them an element of security in that knowledge. Okay? So, being secure in the world, being secure socially, is the 11th bhava. Now again, all security houses make us feel that no matter what happens, I'll be okay. So, with this, Bill Clinton is a great example of this type of quality. Bill Clinton, was president, broke a rule, got impeached, had an impeachment trial. And did it bother him? He's like, I'm the president, He had a title, 11th house thing. He was very secure in the world. He goes, I'm the president. I'm not going to buckle down. He knew that when it came down to it, whoever he was, he still had the title of president. And so as long as he had the title, he acted like he was president. So he was very secure in his title. He was socially secure. He knew he got elected for a reason. He knew that people liked him enough to elect him. He was secure in that knowledge of why people elected him. That he wasn't going to let something relatively small affect him and not, put him into tears and not getting out of bed or resigning. Lots of times you'll see politicians, a little something happens and they resign. Why? Because they're not secure socially. They really aren't secure in why people decided them to put them in office. They're not secure in their title. Okay? You need a leader to be secure in their title. Okay? So that no matter what happens, they're going to continue to be who we, decided to have them be, who we elected them to be or whatever. So, social security. Now, another way we can look at this, on another psychological note, is love received. 11th house is the love in general that we receive that makes us feel validated by people at large. Okay? The 5th bhava is knowing who we are and being that, and once we know who we are, we're able to express love to other people. If we don't know who we are, we can't express love to other people. So this is the house, 5th house is the house of love expressed. And 11th house is actually the house of love received. Okay? So, but 11th house, social security. Feeling psychologically secure amongst our peers, in social situations, whatever. 11th house is our social ability. But are we really secure there? We can be skillful, but not be secure. You see how it works? We can be skillful and secure, but not have the social confidence to take action. Okay? And if we don't have the social confidence to take action, we're just not going to benefit from as much from our social skills because we just won't use them very much. Okay? And so on. So all the triangles, the trines kind of work together this way. Then we have the 12th bhava. Is a moksha, emotional, contemplative bhava with skill, ability. So this is emotional and contemplative ability, which means the ability for liberation. Okay? That ability to achieve liberation from something limiting, whether spiritual liberation or any type of liberation. This house has to do with laboratories. So it's the guy in the lab working things out. It's also the house of, and in those experiments in that laboratory, coming up with a cure for cancer or whatever. Coming up with something, having that skill to come up with something. That's the 12th house. Having the ability to contemplate something and arrive at the truth, that's the 12th house. Okay? Now, taking those actions is 4th house. Okay? But the ability is the 1st house. Okay? Or the 12th house, that ability. So a good 12th house is a person who has the ability to contemplate and arrive at truths and better things, who has the ability to, they're also emotionally able. Okay, what does emotionally able mean? Well, emotionally able means they're able to process their emotions for the most part and move on. So that's what emotions are about. It's about taking the emotion on and processing it and moving on to the next emotions. That requires a good 12th house. People with afflicted 12th houses, every bad emotional thing that happens, they hold on to it. They don't process it and move it through. Why am I using the word processing and moving through and letting go? The 12th house is a house of loss. The 12th house is about losing things. So emotionally means about moving past our emotions and into new emotions. When it comes to contemplation, what's the thing that ruins contemplation and true understanding? 12th house is the true understanding. Well, it's what we already know. It's not hard to learn. What's hard to do is to forget. Okay, so often when I'm trying to contemplate something, I make the breakthrough when I decide I'm just not going to pretend this thing is true. I believed this was true for 15 years, but today I decided, that's not even logical. How did I believe that? And I throw it out. I delete that truth out of my inventory, and then the contemplation goes boom, and everything makes sense. And lots of times I was on the internet with a student recently on an email, there's a situation like that where, person learned something new, and they just couldn't quite grasp it until they ignored something else. I said, look, I always give them a little quiz, basically. And in that quiz, I wanted them to understand something by themselves without me telling it to them, because I didn't want them to know it unless they arrived at it by themselves. Okay? Because it was sort of one of those things that I thought they would hear better if they figured it out themselves. And they would send me an email and say, okay, how about this? I'd say, close, but forget these things that you already think you know, because I could tell the things that they believed that were keeping them from seeing the answer. So a few emails went back till finally they had to let go of that thing. And then their contemplation can bloom forth. So when we're contemplating something, we're not making progress. Lots of times it's because we're not able to let go of something. So, in any great invention, anything that's been done, it's always been the result of being able to let go of that lower thing, that lower understanding, that lower machine, and contemplate the new one. Okay? Just like in spiritual liberation, It's all about letting go of the consciousness of the ego, of that limiting, frustrating thing that's required before a person can contemplate spirit. And it's the same with any contemplation. You're trying to figure out how to use an astrology technique and you're just thinking. That's 12th house. You're contemplating. Your ability to contemplate and arrive at an answer is going to be your ability to let go of what's holding you back so you can see the truth in front of you. Okay? And that's usually what it takes. That's why that 12th house represents the understanding. Understanding is usually so much more simple than we think it is. And because of that, there's so much that has to be let go of. That we have to let go of. And after we do that, things make sense. So, this is emotional and contemplative ability. Okay? Now, if it's afflicted, the person doesn't have the ability to move forward with anything. They have a problem in their lives, and they can't envision seeing out of it. You can also look at this as our fantasies, our daydreams. Okay? Can we dream a better future? That's contemplation. If we can dream a better future, we feel better from that immediately. In fact, I believe it was Yogananda said that depression is the result of not being able to envision a better future for ourselves. 12th house. A good 12th house is someone who can always envision the greater possibilities. And in fact, they're always contemplating the better life they're going to have. A bad 12th house is someone who gets stuck in the rut. You know, someone who can't envision a better possibility. They can't let go and process the limiting life that they have. And so they feel stuck in the rut. Bad 6th bhava can make us feel stuck in the rut too, because it doesn't give us the skills to take care of the problems in our life. Okay? And then of course we have to spend lots of money on other people helping us take care of the problems in our life. And lots of times we just simply don't have the money. Okay? A person simply doesn't have the money to take care of it all. Alright. So, 12th house is an interesting house like all the skill houses. You know, the 12th, 3rd, 6th, and 11th. They all give us that sense of ableness. And it's a terrible thing to feel unable. You know what I mean? It's a terrible thing to feel unable to interact with confidence and happiness with other people. It's no fun to feel unable of surviving on this hard planet that we live in. It's no fun being unable to understand why we're doing what we're doing and why we're here. It's no fun to be unable to contemplate a better future and to be stuck in the emotional, depressive rut that we're stuck in. Okay? So those houses are all, I don't know, really interesting. So with what I've said so far, you want to pull out your 12th house here and contemplate that. So how do you do that? Well, you pull out your 12th house by starting at the 4th house, right? 4th house is taking that action to contemplate, right? Contemplative actions. So I want you to contemplate what you've learned here. It means you have to go into your 4th house. You have to focus your mind and start contemplating, right? Then you got to go to your 8th house. And you have to be secure that no matter what you see, whatever you understand, you'll be okay with it. So often, people can't see the truth of their charts because they have a bad 8th house. They simply can't handle seeing what's right in front of them. So if you want to contemplate astrology, you have to be able to emotionally handle it. If you want to contemplate spirit, you got to be able to emotionally handle it. No matter what spirit reveals or what spirit really is, emotionally you have to trust that you can handle it. No matter what you see in your chart or your spouse's chart, can you handle it emotionally? If you can't, you won't be able to understand it. Okay, you'll balk here, you'll stop there, and I see that so much. Astrologers with bad 8th houses, they're always going to other astrologers for readings because they won't let themselves see what's in front of them. Emotionally, they don't want to handle it. So brush up your 8th house if you've got a bad 8th house. You've got to be willing to see what's in your chart and trust that no matter what's there, that you can handle it. And if you can handle it and go deep into your contemplations and let go of what you know, so you can see the next level of understanding, then you will get a whole bunch of great insights and understanding and be liberated to the next level of Bhava understanding. And that means being able to let go even of what I told you here today. Okay? Because the nice thing about the 12th bhava, the contemplation bhava, there's always room for improvement. So no matter what I might have said about bhavas today, if you contemplate bhavas, there's room for you to gain a greater understanding than anything I said today. And that's what every student should always do when they go to any class with any astrologer, whether myself or another. They should contemplate what they learned and see if they can understand it even deeper than they heard. Okay, that's what you want to do. And that's an essential part of studying astrology. And why is that? Because there's no way anyone could convey everything they know through speech. I'm trying to do my best job to explain all this. And back in my mind, I've got like 100 errors in my brain. Well, I didn't say that just right. I wanted that to come across a little different. But I did my best, did as good as I could. But I didn't tell you everything that I know here because, you know, my brain goes blank or I stutter or who knows. You know how it is when you're talking, you never, or when you're writing, it's hard to convey it. You know, it's not like I can just plug a USB out of my brain into yours. So anytime somebody teaches, you're only getting what they are saying. You're not getting everything they know. It's just not possible. And even if you were getting everything they know, you still want to take it further. So always contemplate whatever you know so that you can understand really what the instructor is saying and so that you can go past what the instructor is saying. So it's important to think and contemplate everything you do. But you'll only be able to do that if these houses are good. And these houses are so important for arriving at understanding. Okay? Now, in some parts of India, they use the 4th house for education, believe it or not. And this is why, because education ideally is about contemplation, you know, and coming to a true understanding of something. And that type of education, when we're studying something to contemplate it and understand it, that's a 4th, 8th, 12th house type thing. Okay? Starts at the 4th, focusing the mind, getting, you know, contemplating, taking the action to contemplate the subject, being able to handle the truth that we might arrive at through the 8th bhava, and through the 12th bhava to arriving at that understanding. That's why in the chart of knowledge, it's the 12th bhava, that's the critical bhava. The 24th varga, the chart of knowledge. The 12th bhava is the critical bhava in that chart. People with the great 12th bhava there just have deep insights because their ability to contemplate is really high. Okay? But anyone might have a good ability to contemplate, but if they don't take actions to contemplate, it won't do a whole lot. And that's why these angles on the North Indian chart are accentuated. These are the most important bhavas. Because if we don't take action to be ourselves, does it really matter how secure we are as an individual or our skillfulness to be ourselves? Doesn't really matter, right? If we're not really taking actions there, these things become secondary. If we don't take actions to feel, then how can we process our emotions? If we don't take actions to feel about how we want our future to be, how can we fantasize about a future that we start working towards? We can't, right? We have to take those actions. If we don't take actions to contemplate, does it matter how skillful we are in contemplating? No. If we don't take actions to do social activities, does it matter how socially skillful we are or how validated we can feel by other people? Doesn't matter, right? And that's why whenever we look at relationships, we always start at this house, right? We look at 7th house usually, only look at 3rd and 11th. But they're important for any relationship. But we just look at 7th because it's more important. Because if we don't start here, there's nothing, we're not going to go anywhere. So keep that in mind. Always look at the angle house first. If we don't take material actions, does it matter how materially skillful we are? If we're not going to use those skills? Not that much. If we don't take material actions, does it matter how many people could be dependent upon us and benefit from us? Not really. So we have to start by taking material actions to take care of other people and through the use of our skills and therefore be very worthwhile. So always look at these angular houses to start with anytime you're looking at the psychology of a person. Okay? if they, okay, so always start at those houses. If you see those houses afflicted, they're going to have a big hole in their self-confidence, their emotional strength, their social confidence, or their material confidence. Okay? And then take it from there. So study this, contemplate it, have fun, and we're going to continue on with this course where we're going to deal with different types of aspects and how they'll create the different themes you'll see in the chart. So in the chart you'll see themes that will support a person's psychology or which will hurt a person's psychology, meaning either create a complex or create a psychological ease for the person. And we'll actually be able to see the age at which those complexes or eases are, become part of the person's personality. We have different events. Say the mother dies. Well, when the mother dies, that's like the psychological complex is going to develop right then and there. So we're going to learn how to see the year of a person's age that those type of things will develop so we can understand their psychological path to being the person who has certain things they're psychologically easy with, along with their psychological complexes, and see what instigated those things. And also, what's really interesting, there's some psychological things we're really aware of. We really know that when I was 8 years old, this happened, and because of that, God help me, I'm going to do this. Okay? So we know certain psychological complexes. But there's certain things that we don't even remember happening that are affecting how we behave on a day-to-day basis. They're rooted in our psychology and therefore affecting how we behave and how we act. But we don't remember what even the event was that caused it. It's like it's more deeply subconscious. And those are the ones usually we need to talk about people with and bring it to the light so they can understand you're this way and react in this situation this way because of a psychological complex that happened when you were 8 years old. So we're only going to learn how to do that kind of stuff in this course. The beginning is understanding the psychological natures of these bhavas. Self-esteem for the dharma bhavas, self-worth for the artha bhavas, social esteem, social confidence for the kama bhavas, and emotional confidence or inner confidence, spiritual confidence for the moksha bhavas. And each one has 4 different types. 3 different types actually. Okay, as we talked about. Okay, thank you.